we're learning a new software program right now, so give us a second. All right, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Suzette, Kevin, myself, we are ready, and welcome to the 2021 Tennessee FAFSA Frenzy Kickoff webinar. We're excited that so many of you have joined us. We are recording this, and we're thankful for the power of editing or whatever. But anyways, we're recording this as well in case you missed something. Guys, the idea with this webinar, simply kick off. Obviously today, the 2021 FAFSA opened. I was sharing it with Suzette and Kevin earlier that I did actually go to FAFSA.gov. I was able to click and get into a 2021 FAFSA, and I began filling one out. So it appears that the system is functioning right now, which is always a good sign on day one of the FAFSA. But the idea of this kickoff webinar is just to share with you what we have in store this month for you. The first thing, webinars, we have a series of webinars, this being our first one, that may be 20 or so minutes, but this Friday, that will be our annual FAFSA line-by-line webinar, which I will take us through the 2021 FAFSA. Excuse me, guys. One reason we haven't done it today is just because it's day one of the FAFSA. I need time to get all the screenshots and everything taken or put into a slide deck and stuff like that. So this Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, we'll do a FAFSA line-by-line webinar like we have done the last several years. That will be recorded, as all of these will be recorded. 2 weeks thereafter, on the 18th, we're going to have a FAFSA Q&A. This may be the first time we've done this, where we're basically going to invite counselors in, obviously on a webinar, and perhaps I go over some of the most frequent questions I've been asked and my team's been asked over the first 2 weeks of the FAFSA cycle. But we'll have like a live Q&A so that you guys can ask live questions as well. We'll see how that goes. That's the first time we're going to do something like that. And then finally, on November 1, we will have an eGrants webinar. The eGrants webinar will be where we go through the Tennessee Promise report and also the FAFSA report that you have accessible via your eGrants site. All right, that being said, the next thing we want to do is actually show resources. Give us this moment, guys. So this introduces the tnfafsafrenzy.gov site that a lot of you are very familiar with, but just those of you who are unfamiliar with the site, tnfafsafrenzy.gov, this is our site where we now share all of our resources for FAFSA, or this is a place that you can find all the resources for FAFSA. As Kevin helps kind of navigate the site just for a second, counselor resources. This tab right here, folks, this is all the resources that as of today we have posted to the tnfafsafrenzy.gov site. We may be adding more later. For example, and I'll let Kevin click on the Y file, the FAFSA parent handout. These are several just PDFs that based on, I think, questions we've received from the counseling community over time. This is a handout. You know, some of your parents kind of challenge the idea of, well, why should we do the FAFSA? Well, here's a handout that we have produced that you can share with your parents, you know, about why completing, why they should be completing the FAFSA. We're going to go back over to that tab. Another resource that we have that I really, really like, the Who is My Parent when I fill out the FAFSA. This is probably one that we will go over during the FAFSA Q&A, but this is that infographic that shows exactly, you know, who needs to complete, who needs to fill out the FAFSA from a parent perspective. For example, in the example of my mom and dad are divorced, right? This to go through a flow chart. Well, who are you married to, or who do you live with, and what is that your current marital status, stuff like that. As I've been doing presentations across the state, I've actually been verbally using this infographic as an example. You know, where folks, for most of us, there are five common households, right? There's my mom and dad are married. They live together, therefore mom and dad's information is needed on the FAFSA. Then there is, I live with my mom, but my mom has never been married or is currently divorced or separated. Then in that case, I need my mom's information on the FAFSA. Third example, I live with my dad, dad's never been married or is currently divorced or separated. In that case, if that's who I live with, then dad's information is who I need. In the last two examples, mom's remarried, then in that case, and I live with my mom, FAFSA will require mom plus stepdad's information. Or the last example about dad, if dad's remarried, then I need dad and stepmom's information. If that's who I live with. This is a great flow chart that takes you through that process. Other resources, the citizenship, Kevin, I think that's a good one to click on right quick. This is a reminder from a federal state aid perspective, you know, a student must be either a citizen or an eligible non-citizen, which is covered in this infographic. Generally speaking, you and I are going to work with students that have a green card. We may work with some who have an I-94 arrival departure record, but the bottom line, this lets you know who is eligible to do the FAFSA and who otherwise would be eligible for federal in most state aid programs. You know, as a reminder, for your DACA undocumented students, they are not, they would not be eligible for FAFSA or state aid, federal aid purposes. So again, reminder for that. So again, big thing here. Council resources, they're there. We'll be posting more as Kevin goes through some of the other tabs here. A lot of information here. Kevin, if you will, and there's our College Pays site. Go back to the resources and go to the financial aid webinars one. This is where these recordings, I believe, will exist. But more importantly, some of you know this, some of us, we sent this blurb out, is we recorded back in late July, early August, 4 one-minute short videos about paying for college in the different types, at the different types of colleges we have in Tennessee. So there's a video for TCAT, there's a video for community college, there's a video for the Tennessee four-year public institutions, and finally, there's a video for our Tennessee four-year private schools. Each of these are 1 minute in length, and I think would be great, you know, to show if you're in a classroom setting, show your students, but also let your parents know, you know, if they don't want to sit through a 45-minute financial aid presentation, this does a quick 1 minute synopsis of what they need to be doing in terms of paying for college. So that's, again, the TNFAFSA Frenzy site. This is just a slide. Those of you that have questions about, Jason, what's out there for our students who are either undocumented or DACA, our friends at Connexion here in Nashville, they have created a website specifically chock full of resources for the undocumented DACA student population. So by all means, you know, if you are working with a student at your school who is, again, undocumented or DACA, and they're asking you questions about what are my college options, tnfafsafrenzy.gov has created this website just for them. It has resources, some scholarship opportunities, as well as a list, a map of colleges in Tennessee that have programs and specifically financial aid resources specifically for these the students in this population. So by all means, share this with that population of students. All right, and I think the last thing that I was going to hit just as a reminder right now, again, guys, this is day one of FAFSA, and some of you perhaps are already doing FAFSAs at your school. Please understand, as a reminder, TSAC, we will not begin downloading FAFSA information until later on in October. Generally speaking, year in and year out, we will email you guys once we begin receiving that FAFSA information. That's going to help me go through these slides right quick. This is a reminder right now, what you do have currently available in eGrants is the Tennessee Promise Report. So if you go to our tn.gov/college-pays site and scroll to the bottom, and one more click to do that, and if you click on eGrants Access, if you click on it, this will open up the eGrants login page where you will enter your username, and then will be eventually prompted for your password as well. Once you're logged into eGrants, this is where you'll find your Tennessee Promise Report. So if you click on Reports down on the left, and then click on Scholarship Application Status Report Tennessee Promise, web box comes up. As a reminder, you are pulling a report for the 2021 academic year, because that is when your high school seniors will be entering college. This is where you'll be able to view and ultimately save your Tennessee Promise Report. The Tennessee Promise Report specifically updates instantaneously. So as a reminder, once your student submits a Promise application, they will be on this report. So this report updates instantaneously. But again, as I introduced this slide as a reminder, the FAFSA report will not be available for 2021 until later on in October. And there's an example of the Tennessee Promise Report that so many of you are familiar with. As always, if you have trouble with the Promise Report, by all means, you can contact one of your local outreach specialists, or as always, you can contact me. You see my contact information on the screen. We'll go one more click. There's, I guess, my contact information larger in this case. Guys, y'all know this. That's my work cell, so you can always text me as well if you're having any issues. But again, this was just kind of a primer for, you know, hey, happy opening 2021 FAFSA Day. Like I said, on Friday at 10 a.m., a line-by-line FAFSA webinar, and that way I'll take you through the 2021 FAFSA. And Suzette, quickly, my 10 minutes within the application, not much has changed other than years. So that's always a good thing, right? In other words, we shouldn't have a lot to necessarily have to go over in terms of a change perspective. But on Friday, I'll share with everyone what I've seen on the related to the 2021 FAFSA. And by all means, those of you that come back and for that webinar as well, you may already have questions related to the first few days of FAFSA opening. So by all means, come with those questions at that time. So,
and we also want to direct you to, if any of you have any questions for Jason, he's here and ready and willing to answer them. So just type them into the chat box and we will share out.
Yeah, I think maybe just to stall for maybe a minute or two, just to see if anyone has any questions to type in. Suzette, I think we learned, I think some counselors have already been asking, again, this is hour 10 into the 2021 FAFSA. Some counselors have already asked about the FAFSA visualizations on tnfafsafrenzy.gov. Again, very similar to FAFSA data. those visualizations will be updated later on this semester. We will let you know once visualizations begin being updated on the FAFSA site. So.
Okay, so we've had a couple of questions come in. One is, do we register for the webinar on Friday?
Yeah, by all means, please do. And if we need to, we can resend that link to you if you haven't already received it. But by all means, I think last week we sent out just a reminder about all these webinars. But yeah, if you will, please register for it. And in that way, if you miss it, we will then send to all counselors registered or other professionals that are registered for the webinar, we will then send that recording out. And folks, y'all know this too. My team will also send it out to those that did not register for it as well. But please register for that if you will.
Okay, and one other question, what should I do if a student appears on my TMP report that does not attend my school?
So I would say if you will email or text me, the student obviously could have just accidentally selected the wrong high school from the list. I will say last week, Suzette, working at one of the high schools, several of us internally, for practice purposes, we also submit Tennessee Promise applications. So if that happens to be Jason Seay on your Promise report, I apologize. You can email me and I can remove myself from your report, or if it's Suzette Telly or Kevin Edwards or whatever. But seriously, if it's obviously if it's a student that does not belong to you, definitely, if you will, email myself or your specific outreach specialist, and we can definitely take care of that and get that student to the right school. And obviously, if we have follow-up questions like, well, hold on a second, blah, blah, we'll go back and forth that. But email me, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Any last questions from anybody?
Suzette, I will promise you this will be the shortest of our webinars, being at 21 minutes. Obviously, guys, pack your lunch on Friday. We'll probably have a 60-minute webinar about the 2021 FAFSA walkthrough. That said, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining. Suzette, Kevin, thank you so much for your help in getting this webinar up and running and recorded. And again, hopefully I'll see and hear from many of you on Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. And again, we will record the 2021 FAFSA webinar.
Right.
So have a great day, guys.
It's October 1st. The FAFSA is open.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, Suzette.